to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Total Protonic Reversal.
Protonic Reversal.
Protonic Reversal with your host, Conan Neutron. Broadcasting from a secret underground lair in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
A gigantic middle finger to everything that is rock about music, rock and roll, and corporate power.
The thing is, though, if you don't laugh, you're going to go on a killing spree with sharpened nails.
Confidence of a hero or a fool. I wasn't exactly certain which.
Could not be more professional.
It means something. It means something. You know, that's my take on it. Like, what's yours?
Protonic Reversal!
That's like a science thing, right?
Indeed it is. It is a science thing. It's a science place. It's a scientific fact that we're all up in your face. It's time once again for the one, the only Protonic Reversal. Welcome to it. First episode of the winter. I guess we can charitably say winter at this moment in time. I've been up, out, and on tour. Fun story about this episode is we've been talking about it for multiple seasons. And this is it's great that we're finally doing it. But of course, for those in the know, if it sounds a little raspy, it's because I've just been on tour with Conan Neutron Secret Friends, doing the South, and before that Pacific Northwest, Midwest, etc., doing the rock and roll thing as I am known to do. And thank you for everyone for coming out. There's a lot of folks repping the stickers, the buttons, the shirts of not just the show, but all the other things. And it's lovely, especially playing Austin. February 2020 is the last time we played Austin. And that was great too. As those might remember, something happened around that time. So it was great to be back. And it's really great to be bringing you this episode. So this is interesting for a number of reasons, not the least of which I'm a big fan of this dude. And we're going to be talking about it in a mere moments, but it's been a long time. I'll get into exactly how long it's been momentarily, but first let me do this intro. Welcome to Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. I'm your host, Conan Neutron, rock and roll lifer that's been touring and recording for 26 years, most known for the band Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. Music is a huge part of my life, and I use the format of this very long-running podcast to talk about music with musicians whose work I enjoy and respect, but who may not be household names. This is episode 443. Now, if this is your first time listening to the show, archives of it are available for free. No ads, no sponsors, no kidding, at protonicreversal.com. However, if you want to support the show and get episodes sooner, $1 a month at patreon.com/Protonic Reversal will achieve that goal. If you like the show, even just a single episode, please feel free to like, subscribe on your platform of choice, share it around the internet, even leave a review. All that helps people discover the show. It beats back the almighty algorithmic overlords. It's just a darn nice thing to do. So this is episode 443. The fellow I'm about to talk to was last on episode 27, which is 416 episodes ago. It's a world of change. This has been 11 years since I last talked to this guy. One of my favorite musicians, one of my favorite drummers, a great artist, great actor. And there's news this year for one of his formative bands, of which is one of my favorite bands. I am very pleased to bring you, everybody, Mr. Ray Washam, returning to the show. Sir, welcome.
I didn't know that intro. I don't know who you're getting ready to introduce or something. You're talking about me?
It's like, oh, man, sounds important.
Who else is he having on the show? What is he doing?
It's like being the C-list guest on Letterman. Like, oh, what is this? Do I know who this is?
Yeah, I don't like it. It's just me.
Well, I got to say, in my personal timeline at the time of this recording, just recently played Austin, and We Are the Asteroid with Gary Chester, who played, which we'll get into in a second because I know you got something fun going on with him. Brett Radford came out to the show on a Monday in Austin, Texas. Guitarist of one of my favorite bands, Scratch Acid. And that's what led me to be like, oh man, when I was talking to Ray, I think like multiple seasons have gone by since we like agreed to do the show. And I was like, I got to make this right. Cause like the fact that, as you well know, and as I mentioned in the intro, Scratch Acid being a formative band for me, this release is real special, man. Like you guys put a lot of effort into this. And I feel like if anything I can do to kind of like put some volume on that and get people to pay attention to it, I think it's important. This is a lot. It seems like it's a lot of work, first of all, but a worthy one.
What are you talking about?
The box set, the Scratch Acid box set.
Oh, that's already sold out.
I know, but I still think it's worth mentioning. I mean, I think it's something where I feel like there was a time period, right, where where Scratch Acid was like not in the conversation for like the great Texas bands or the great bands of that time or period, and I feel like it's great for that to exist and for it to be something that even if it's just a physical product that the kids are not buying the thing but they're streaming it. It's great for them to be introduced to the band and to have that history kind of brought forward to a new generation. I think it's great. I mean, Look, man, I made a homemade Scratch Acid T-shirt in high school in my screen printing class. Like that's how much of a fan I was, right? so take of that what you will. But what
is your hometown?
Oh, I grew up so I'm from Oakland, California, but I grew up in a town called Modesto, California, which is more or less the Amarillo or like Kansas of California.
Is that where you are now in Oakland?
No, I've lived in Milwaukee since like 2017. So,
you live in Milwaukee.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's something where, and that's how long this episode has been in gestation, right? That like when we originally talked about it, like it wasn't out yet, and then here we are, like a few seasons later, talking about it. But it's just
so you were in Austin. You drove from Austin back to Milwaukee.
Oh no, we played other shows. We played like Denton, Wichita, St. Louis.
No, I know that, but was Austin your last show, and then you went back home to Milwaukee?
No.
You had some stuff in between.
Yeah, we played Denton, Texas. We played
fabulous Denton.
Yeah, Wichita. Played Wichita, Kirby's Beer Store, still around after all these years. St. Louis, and then back. But yeah, it was great to be back.
That's a haul.
It is. But Gary Chester, who by the way, is it public knowledge? I guess that you're doing the band you're doing with Gary. You're looking for a vocalist at this point, right?
I'm not playing with Gary anymore.
Oh, is that not happening? That's how. Sorry, man.
That's all right.
Well, it's interesting to me because I feel like you're someone that like you have such an iconic drum sound, but you seem like you engage things like very seriously.
Are you a drummer?
I'm not. No, I mean like perfunctory.
What do you play in your band?
Oh, I do guitar and vocals. I know just enough drums to kind of help with the songwriting and not
I didn't know what instrument you played.
No, I would love to be a great drummer, but
most people would be.
Yeah. I know lots of great drummers. Sometimes it's fun to play on the drums is how I characterize it for me. But I think that there's something to be said for, and we talked about, a bit of it last time, and by last time I mean like 11 years ago, that this curriculum vitae, this resume of yours, where the stuff with Helios Creed, the stuff with Ministry, the stuff with Steve and David Williams Sims, the Florists, I think, right, was the original one of the names bandied about before the other name. And it's interesting to me that you seem like you've like a bit of an aesthete for playing. And I mean, are you playing now? Are you playing at all? Like playing drums, I mean?
Yeah, I just came back from practice about an hour and a half ago.
Fantastic. Great. So what's that? Is that something you can divulge, or is that super secret?
No, I was just playing by myself, actually, just going and practicing. So I was playing. I had a I had a band thing going, and Gary was in the band. Who was?
Yeah.
Did you guys? Did they play with you? Did
Yeah,
this
they
band
played.
play
They
with
played.
you?
They played with us at Hotel Vegas. Yeah, they're great.
Okay.
We Are the Asteroid.
The Asteroid. Yeah.
Yeah,
The Asteroid. Yeah.
Real
Yeah,
cool
well-
player. I've always liked that guy's guitar stuff. I thought he's like real good. Real
Yeah, I
interesting.
love Gary. He's great. We were starting a band. We Jay Maskus came into town and did his little solo project, and he asked me to play and find a bass player, and I asked him if he would mind if we had a rhythm guitar player, because he's never done that before. It's always been a 3-piece, and so I asked Gary to come and play, and Jay said it was cool, and so we played this show. And after we finished, we were gonna just continue on as a band.
Mm-hmm.
But the bass player who I really enjoyed playing with left and moved, and so Gary and I tried to kind of power through it, and it just he's in 3 other bands, and he didn't really have the time to be able to try to start a band from scratch, although he was trying to make time, but it just didn't work out. So, and that just happened just a few weeks ago. So I'm back jacking off by myself, so to speak. Yeah. Me and my metronome. So, yeah.
Well, and that's something where, the nature of music and creativity and collaboration and whatnot, it's something where it is kind of like alchemy, right? Like the right elements have to be in place, the right folks got to be in place, and there's so many factors to it that have nothing to do with that musical aspect of it, and then they all have to be factored in. And yeah, people playing with other bands and just not having the time, that's a pretty common thing. It's a pretty common explanation.
It is.
Do you feel like so if you kept up, let's be real, it's been 11 years since we talked last. Like you were just kind of starting to move towards like doing some acting stuff. I was trying
to remember when it was. I was talking to my wife about that, about when it was, because I was telling her about you, and I was trying to remember when that was, and
it was so long ago, dude. It was so long ago.
I thought it would have been longer than that.
It seems both longer and shorter, depending on when I think about it. I mean, that intro that I play, like there's like a sample from like your episode that's like in there from when you're talking about like playing shows that, like some amount of people was a massive crowd. And like I forgot, I'm like, oh man, that's from like so early on, because I haven't changed that in a decade. Right.
So you've been doing this podcast the whole time?
Whole time, never stop.
Oh wow.
It's bigger now.
Good for you. That's good.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just trying to make the kind of thing I want to hear. That's really what it comes down to, and I think that's.
Who was your favorite person to interview?
Oh man, I mean that's like.
You have a favorite?
I mean, there's certainly things that are pretty special. Like it's pretty cool.
Who's the biggest celebrity that you've interviewed?
Tony Visconti was pretty good, pretty big, right? Like, he's David Bowie's producer. That was pretty big. I mean, look, Jerry Casale has come on multiple times. Devo's one of my favorite bands of all time. That's pretty big for me. James Williamson from the Stooges, that was great. I think it's one of the only shows he's ever done. Yeah. But I think about it like it's a.
I'm just curious.
Oh no, absolutely. But I think about it in terms of. It's not like what the biggest episodes are. It's more what I choose to focus on. Because I never have anyone on that is not someone that I am interested in, right?
Yeah.
And one would imagine that would be like an assumed thing, but it really isn't. Like it seems like some people just deal with the PR cycle and stuff. I don't care about that. I would rather not do an episode than talk to someone I don't care about. And again, you're talking to a guy who literally made a homemade scratch acid shirt in high school, right? So that's like where I'm coming from. And was it a great T-shirt? I don't know, it's fine. I used to work in Tower Records in Berkeley, and I'd be wearing that on the way to my, and like these hippies would be like, "Oh yeah, scratch acid, bro," and I'm like, "Oh, fucking Christ," just like, no, you don't. It's a band. It's not just like general drug use. Kind of thing, which I had to deal with all the time, but it's like that's part of my personal story and how I came into the world of music. So I mean, I just love that you guys got together and did that box set, because I feel like those songs are so great, and I kind of came into it from the Greatest Gift comp. Like the one that here's everything, right? Like, and great, very cool. I still remember to this day, kind of like listen to it and be like, oh man, this band. Like I'm a little atypical. I'm a little older than like the audience to this show. That like it was years before I heard the Jesus Lizard, but like I was like like hearing things like Greatest Gift and stuff like that, and it kind of kicked my world in a little bit, because I was starting to listen to like Sonic Youth and like Melvins and stuff like that, but the way I kind of found out about stuff was like real random. And I want to say that the reason I found out about Scratch Acid in the first place, Kurt Cobain just like wore one of your T-shirts on like a thing. I'm like, what's that? Scratch Acid. I don't know what that is. And so I loved the comp, but it was one of those things where I was like, why do I feel like I'm the only one who knows this? You got to realize I'm coming from like the West Coast, and and I just didn't have any frame of reference for it. But I loved like the care and attention that you guys put to this box set of just like really kind of securing the legacy, for lack of a better term. How much work was that, or was that just kind of like, oh, it was all there and let's put together in a nice package and for the fans?
I didn't have that much to do with it.
Was it? I mean, was there any changes to? I mean, obviously there was the book, right? Is there like people could discover things with that and put that in there?
Like I said, I didn't really have very much to do with it. Corey just told me that they were going to do it, and asked me if I was cool with it, and I said, yeah, sure. And David Yao did the artwork, and called up an old photographer to come find some old pictures, and that was about it. Like I said, I didn't really have very much to do with it. Right. I think they sent me some, probably the only story that I have that's interesting of that is that they were able to remaster the Just Keep Eating record, because those tapes had been lost, and the master 2, the master, I guess it was a 1-inch tape back then. Maybe it was 2-inch. I don't even remember now. Those tapes had been lost, but somebody found the two tracks of it, the mixes.
Oh, interesting. Okay, sure, yeah.
Somebody found that, because on Greatest Gift, that CD, that was sampled back in, whenever that came out, back in 80 or 90, whatever that was, at like 4-bit rate, was sampled off of. No, I'm serious. It was
I'm sure
off of the vinyl, and it just sounded like dog shit. And so when Corey said he was going to do this, he had forgotten that he had it. Somebody found those tapes in Dallas.
Really?
Somebody called Corey and go, hey, I'm tearing down this building, and I happened to come across these boxes that have your phone number on them, and I wanted to know if you wanted them. And they were the fucking mixes. No, I'm serious. They were the 2 mixes of Just Keep Eating. And so Corey said, what? He goes, yeah, I found these. And so Corey's had them for years. So anyway, they shipped the tapes to Corey, and that's what he was able to use to do this.
So they were just sitting around basically for like a long period of time. They were just kind of like around, and
Corey had them, and I think this probably happened about 10, 12 years ago when the tapes were found, when this person got in touch with Corey. And so he's had them for a long time. Like I said, he didn't even remember, because when he called me and asked me if we wanted to do them, I said, yeah, cool. You can remaster Just Keep Eating. You could actually, have it repressed from the tapes instead of, samples. So, and he was like, I don't have those. I go, yeah, you do. Remember you told me the story, and he went back and he found them. And he's like, oh my God, thank you for reminding me. I didn't even realize I had them. So.
Well, yeah, and there's so much cool stuff on there.
Story about that.
It's got like you got Crazy Dan, you got Amicus, you got the Jesus Christ Superstar song that's on there. Like it's kind of, if you're trying to kind of go through the history of the band, it's like really incomplete to have a version of that isn't up to audio standards, right? Especially this day and age. I mean, it sounds great now. Like I've done an A/B with it, like the box set version versus the, I guess the sampled version from Greatest Gift, and it's like night and day, man. It's like as long as you have a decent sound system, I should say. If you're.
Well, that record never did sound very good anyway, so it was. At least it sounds better than it did on that Greatest Gifts CD. So.
Were you happy? Were you happy with the sound of the records in general? Did you feel like it was representative of the band?
Not Just Keep Eating.
Well, besides that one though, like like the EP.
I was happy. We were happy with it. Kerry Crafton was a great engineer, so it was. Yeah. He actually worked on Rapeman with us too. So, but he was. Yeah. I was very happy with him.
Yeah, well, and that's
can I not say that band name on?
It's okay. I mean, look, man. It's at this point. That's not going to be the thing that gets you. It is funny because I feel like I had Steve on this show multiple times, and like one time he was, he said like he felt he forced that on everybody, and that was like maybe a mistake in retrospect. I don't know. That's how he felt about it. And I was like, all right, well, good on you, Steve. That's fine. It's kind of it's a ship that sailed at this point, but the music's good. That's more important than anything else, in my opinion. But not talking about Rapeman specifically, I always loved Owner's Lament was the first, lack of a better term, punk rock song I heard with like a string section. And that sounds like kind of silly to like focus on. But that's like fairly early on for y'all. I mean, that's like 84 or something along those lines. Like that was like pretty early on. And my understanding is that you did the arrangement on that, right?
Well, I wrote the string part. That was yeah.
I mean, that was. I just don't feel like there were a lot of punk rock bands doing that at the time. Maybe
Well, it's pretty basic. The string part's pretty basic. It just, I didn't write. There's a solo in there. I didn't write that.
Okay. Well, that's very humble of you to say it, but I think that's kind of like one of the things. So I would say on that one, like that one and Cannibal, which I've heard multiple bands do covers of, are the ones that's sort of like, oh, what's this all about? This is kind of like a hook in some ways into the music. And it just strikes me as being like that was like on the early side. So was that something that, I mean, had you heard any other bands doing that at the time? Like what was the putting strings on that song? What was that mindset? Like where did that come from?
Well, I don't remember, to be perfectly honest. I know that I've always I guess just from my taste of music, I've always I was in band in school and stuff like that, so I didn't want to just be if I could have been in any kind of a band in my life, it would have been like a big band, with lots of instrumentation and stuff like that. And I've always liked, and if you, we were trying to experiment as much as we could, as much as we had a budget with other kind of instrumentation. And when we got into a studio and we were able to to be able to do that, we wanted to try as much as we possibly could. And so, I've always tried to love to experiment. Sometimes stuff works, sometimes it doesn't. And I've always loved string sections, and who doesn't, so it's like, it wasn't really very hard to do. You just, hey, here's a part, ask a couple people come in and play on it. It wasn't any really big deal. It's just, we liked, and it sounded great. And so we're like, but it wasn't this big riff. Oh my God, string section. Yes. Genius. It wasn't like, it's like, hey, I got a string part thing. The song just fit, it's kind of melancholy, whatever, the riff is. It just seemed like it might work. So we tried it, and it did. So.
Well, yeah, there's a cultural shorthand with strings, right, that are often used for producing certain desired emotional effects and stuff. It's just, like I said, it's just, for me personally, it occurred to me that I had not heard that in, a band like y'all's. That's really what it comes
and that's one reason why we did it, because we didn't want to be like, we wanted to be different, and so. And everybody in the band, especially David and Brett pretty much too, and David Sims to some degree as well. But, we went out of our way to, even though we've been pigeonholed as, a birthday party copy band or whatever, we tried to go out of our way to be different, we tried to do stuff as different as we possibly could, at least from what was going on around us, So
yeah, and that's something where you don't always get riches for being original necessarily, but it pays dividends down the line creatively, for sure.
Well, people that the innovators never get anywhere. It's always the people that end up copying that style, and that's fine.
Yeah. Do you feel like when you just revisited doing those tunes, like what's it, 2011 or whenever it was, like doing those again, like were you able to kind of hear it as music, or was it more still like thinking about it in terms of like the sum of the parts and everything? And I'm just asking because it was such a big gap of time between them, long time of playing.
Those tours didn't do very well, to be perfectly honest.
I mean,
I don't think anybody really gave a shit.
I can assure you people did, but on a larger level,
a few did. But
it's for the nerds, right? Of which I count myself amongst them. But
you realize how popular your band was when you go out, and there were not very many more people than there was, 30 years ago when you played. So it's, it was okay. It was humbling, actually.
Yeah, which is a shame, because it's one of those things where, I mean, like, look, man, something I say on this show is, if you cater to my sensibilities, great, but like, you're never going to make millions.
People would have rather seen the Jesus Lizard, I think. So,
yeah, I mean, they're great too, but it's for whatever reason that, like, has hit on a much bigger level, and that's just the way it is. It's crazy how it works. But then by the same token, I think there's a unique place in history for scratch acid specifically that, there's respect, not something you can put in the bank. It's not legal tender, but you'd let some respect out there especially from other musicians that be like, oh yeah, it's great. And I want to say, because I remember we talked last time, I'm not, usually I get a little aggressive about policing myself about having people on and talking about stuff from last time. But in this case, it's so goddamn long ago, I don't really remember. But I think we talked about the stuff with Helios Creed, like your time in Seattle and doing stuff along those lines. Have you revisiting that, and Helios being like one of the great like Freak Factor 9 guitar players in my opinion, just like on his own plane of existence. Have you revisited any of that stuff? Have you thought about that at all since last time we talked? I mean, I think that record's great. It's a killer record, but it's also another one for the freaks in compliment in that way. Have you thought about that record at all? Have you thought about that? Can you tell me a little about like the making of that one? How do you feel about that one?
No, I haven't thought about that record.
It's a cool record. I mean, I actually listened to it the other day. We were driving through frickin' Mississippi, and I threw it on. I was like, oh man, this record kind of goes. It's good, but it's like it's like the world of Helios Creed is a large and all encompassing one, and I feel like I could see where it'd be something you don't think about that often, but I think there's some great work on there. I think there's some really cool music. I think that it all fits together like super well, and
Thanks. Good.
I think it holds up, right? Which is something that I think every musician, when you're making something,
I'll have to go back and listen to it because I haven't.
It's pretty good, man.
All I remember from that is there was one song that I liked, and that was it. That's all I remember from that.
Oh man, I guess all you need is the one, but that's I think the record's cool, man. That's
probably been 20 years since I heard any of that.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's
Sorry, I don't sit around and listen to my own music. So it's not be more knowledgeable about it for the show. So
no, it's not a quiz, man. It's fine. It's all right. Tell me about how the band Post Scratch Acid with David Sims and with Steve, how Rapeman came together. Tell me about how that all came together, because I think that's a band that was cooking pretty hard, and it was definitely building off things that Scratch Acid and Big Black had done, but not around for a long time in the larger scheme of things. How do you feel about those records, the Two Nuns and a Pack Mule, the Bud EP? How do you feel about those records? Do you think those turned out in a way that represented the band as a live entity?
I mean, it's just what we played. I didn't put that much. It wasn't a big philosophical thing. You know that you're in a band and you write songs with somebody. You hope people like it. It wasn't any big deal. If you're asking me what I think about the music,
mm-hmm.
I'm happy with what we did.
I mean, I think there's some ripper stuff on there, and this is coming from, it's weird to think about now, but like Steve was coming out of like, oh, that's the drum machine guy. He's the guy that plays with the drum machine. And then like suddenly it's like, oh, and then like now there's, this dude that's like a badass drummer is playing. All right, great. And it's an interesting time. I feel like was A789, right? It was interesting time in independent music because it's before that real gold rush mentality that kind of came in around 91. But I mean, I think it's a hell of a band, frankly, and I think it's something where it's too bad that it maybe isn't quite regarded in the same way as like Shellac or something. Just but people are off-putted by the name or something. I don't know. Couldn't tell you. Like I said, I can only tell you what I know.
I can tell you. People were very off-put by it.
I mean, y'all were getting protests and stuff, right? If I remember correctly, like that people were pretty mad about it.
Well, if you want me to comment about that, personally, I think it wasn't a good choice. But it's weird though, because my personal feeling is that people thought that because we had that name, we were advocating for rape. And I just thought that was fucking ridiculous. Nobody gave the shit about nobody, yeah, sure. I thought there were a lot of bands that had much worse names than that. Millions of Dead Cops, Dead Kennedys, all this fucking,
Butthole surfers. Yeah.
I just, I just like, wow, really? You think that we're pro rape because we have this name, which wasn't a great choice of a name. I get that. It was, it was just trying to be shocking. And I'm fucking sick of talking about it, to be perfectly honest. David Sims won't have anything to fucking do with the band. He wants to be completely forgotten. That's his choice. I think there's probably for whatever his reasons are, but I'm not ashamed that the band was called that. I don't think it was a good choice, but I was never, ever even considering the fact that it was pro-rape. That was like the farthest thing from our minds, that's what that was about. So, and unfortunately it became more about that than it became about the music. So we fucked up. And so, hey, whatever.
Well, I think,
you learn.
Probably something to do with it had to do with the fact that, Steve, especially at the time, was pretty
Steve was extremely caustic at that point in his life,
exactly.
and
doesn't help.
He couldn't be any more confrontational, and I had problems with that. I was like, I didn't want to come off like that. I said my feeling was, let the music be that. You don't need to be that way in your personal life and come off, because Steve wasn't like that.
As a person, not at all. No,
he's not
absolutely.
like that. He's not. He's like that when he's confronted about his art,
right,
and about what he does in his work and stuff like that. But as a person sitting down and hanging out with him, he's the normal fucking guy. He's got his opinions about some stuff that he likes and he doesn't like, but he was never that way. And it bummed me out that as soon as somebody put a microphone in his face, he fucking had to come off with this this whatever that thing is that he did. And God bless him and rest in peace, man. And a shame, because I know so many people loved him. And my time with Steve was very short. It was very intense and very short-lived and explosive. And so I didn't know him very well, but I heard that he had changed and he wasn't like that. But he was, that part of Steve that you saw in the press when he was like that and confrontational and argumentative and all that shit, that was an act. He wasn't really like that. I was like, why do you have to fucking be that way, man? And it got to be a problem, because that attitude that's his personal behavior in interviews was a reflection on what the band was doing, and it didn't help us.
And it overpowered the music, right?
It did.
It's easy to talk about it. It's easy to talk about the controversy than the music. People love talking about anything that's not the actual art.
And it came out in his lyrics and stuff like that, which I just thought were funny, but people take offense at, some people, they have to fucking just like analyze and just every little fucking thing. But that's their right to do that.
And it's way more pronounced now, I know for sure. And it's interesting too that in his own journey as a dude, I feel like he moderated that aspect of himself, but only after that band was done. It seemed like, which is all right. I mean, I guess he got there, but but he was good enough at being that kind of provocateurish sort of fella that that there's entire people that were influenced by that and based their entire personality on it, and pretty insufferable to be around, frankly.
Yeah, Steve was one of the nicest, most generous people I've ever known in my life, and I'm sorry that I wish I would have continued to know him and to be friends with him. Because I really liked hanging out with him. He was always fun when we weren't doing band stuff, and I really liked him.
Right, as a person, as a dude, right? Sure, yeah. Which that part of it, that part of being in a band is often discounted as well. Just no, this is it's in the name, band. You're people banding together.
Yeah. Anyway.
I remember he said he likened calling it Rapeman to getting a bad tattoo. Which I thought was pretty funny. I was like, we were just it was funny because I had I don't think this is ever going to happen, but
I was talking to Corey
Mm-hmm.
about this right after Steve had passed, and I had been meaning to call him before I found out, several months before Steve had passed away, and I was talking to Corey about what he thought about. Hey, what do you think about just dropping the name, just changing the name? And so, but I never did call him. I never did talk to him about it. And then after Steve passed, I called him. I said, hey, you know, I really want this music to come out. I wanted it to be a more available than it is, because after Steve passed, all this stuff people were sending me stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I was going back and listening to the music. I was like, wow, this was pretty good. I was like, some of it was really good. And I was like, hey, you know, and then I would look for it and I couldn't find it. I'm like, well, how come? So I asked Corey, you think Steve would have been opposed if he would have changed the name, if we would just like, you know? Corey said, yeah, you know what, I was thinking about that. We're just going to use the R logo and not even have a name and not even have a name.
Okay.
Anyway, we talked about some other options and some things that we were going to do, but it never happened.
What was it? Was the Florists, right? That was like a name you guys were kicking around like early on, if I remember correctly.
Well, we had several names that were better than Rapeman.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
So yeah, but Steve chose that one.
Well, and I remember he said it was he felt in retrospect it was a flippant choice that was kind of indefensible, right? But
well, sure, of course.
It's like there's not much you can do after you made that choice. I like the idea of it being made available in a larger perspective, absent of that context, because it's I mean, the music's good. You know, the records rip. Like they're good. There's like cool stuff there, and it hits in a way that like it's still a little different than anything any of you guys have done. Like, you know, it's not the same as Shellac. It's not the same as like Jesus Lizard. Not the same as any of the stuff that you've done. Like it's kind of a unique signpost, but it kind of has to be like a true heads will know kind of situation because of the hair shirt of that name.
Yeah, that's because there were different people in the band.
Fair. Okay.
Different personnel make a different band.
Yeah,
I don't have to tell you that.
Yeah, that's very real, man. So tell me about ministry, because I remember you telling a story, and again, I'm just going off the dome here, but I remember you saying like, you know, that like when the punishing nature of those live shows, and I remember at one point, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you had like the sticks like taped to your hands to go because it was so brutally punishing, and just going on for so long while certain folks like kind of waited in the wings. I mean, is that something that like what's it like looking back on that experience of being in that live band and having that music that's, you know, very well regarded, but it seemed like just a brutal experience playing live at the same time?
Well, probably the only thing that was really hard about it is that I had to play with the click track, and there wasn't any breaks between songs, so that was
just relentless. Just keep going.
Yeah, I mean, the music wasn't that complicated. It was pretty easy to play, but it was just that you couldn't stop and rest and in between, and you had to, you know, you had to be like rock fucking solid to a metronome the whole time. This is, I think, before bands were really playing to that, you know, so it wasn't a big deal. But I was used to playing to a click track, so to practicing to a metronome, so it wasn't really a big deal. It's just you know, it's physics. Drumming is hard. Drumming take a lot of fucking.
It's effort,
you know?
Right? Yeah, it's a physicality to it.
Yeah. Do it for 80 minutes, and you know, without stopping, and see how you do. You know.
Yeah, and that's something where
it wasn't any. The band playing in that band wasn't any harder than any. yeah, I couldn't stop to dry the sweat off.
Right.
I got really bad blisters one night from a show because it was so fucking hot and sweaty. The skin just sloughed off my hands.
Yeah.
And because we did an extra long set, and the skin just like came off because my hands were sopping wet. And I know when we're anyway. So yeah, and I had like raw skin that I had to play for like the next 3 weeks while they were trying to heal. Yeah, that sucked. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Well, I mean, because that's like, it's a job, right? And your job is to, hit the drums and, this propulsive big
That's what it is.
thing that's, I mean, look, I saw that.
It was way harder to play in Rapeman than it was in Ministry.
Right. But it's also just like the conceits are different.
Yeah.
Right.
You're talking about the physical part of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the physicality of just like no stops, just going like just.
Oh man, there's tons of drummers out there that play way more intense than me. Those guys, I don't know how to fucking do it, man. I see some of these guys today. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I don't want any part of that.
Something that another fellow I talked to, since last we talked, was Tad. I had Tad on the show.
How's he doing?
Great conversation. He's doing pretty good. Doing pretty good now. He had a kind of rough patch for a minute there.
How so?
He's dealing with some mental health issues. Stuff got pretty dark for him for a time period, right? But then like he kind of like found a path back through, and he's doing okay now. He's doing good.
I'm sorry that I don't talk to him anymore. Not because I don't want to, just don't. He has his own life and I have mine, but I'm sorry to hear that he went through something that was difficult, but I'm glad that he's on the other side of it if that's what happened.
Yeah, it is, and it's good.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Good.
Do you want to? Can you tell me anything about like first like hooking up with him and hooking up with that band and what? Which, by the way, that's another one. Like just for the help, not because I didn't even know we were going to be doing this necessarily, but I just listened to like some of that stuff in the van like a couple days ago. I was like,
I'm not on any of that stuff.
But the songs are great. Like I was thinking about like their moment on in history and like, God, how is this band kind of like forgotten amongst that conversation? What was? I'm trying to get the timeline in my head right. Because I know there was
I don't know it either.
Well, because there's the Dave thing.
If you figure it out, let me know.
Okay. Well, so all right. Well, tell me what you remember about going to Seattle. Let's start with that. Like, tell me what you can remember from that.
I don't. I can't. I mean, it probably wouldn't be accurate. I went out there a couple of times and came back, and then they called me and asked me to come out, and I did. And that's it. I started playing with them in 90, I think, maybe 91. I wasn't with them very long. And I think I did that one tour, and then we worked on a record, and then that was it. We did we did the Primus tour, and a few other shows around that, and then we started working on a record, and that's when I left. So,
well, and that's something where, there's a lot going on around that time, right? That's what I call that the gold rush, that gold rush time, where suddenly, for a quarter second or so, like the freaks were allowed in the building. It was like a lot happening around that time. Did you feel like you were like any part of that, or were you just trying to like trying to like have a decent time playing drums in a band? Like where were you at? Because again, coming off of everything from before, that's something where you're well poised to do something utterly huge, but just kind of like, a few steps away at that same time.
Well, what do you mean exactly?
So
Just huge. What do you mean?
yeah, huge in terms of like being in like the big successful band that like hey, we're all sharing in the spoils of war or whatnot, what have you, and it just feels like for someone that's such an iconic drummer, because I feel like if anything, if there's anything to be said about your drumming, it's almost like it's almost too interesting. Right, where it's almost like there's almost too much thoughtfulness like going into it. But I'm talking about you playing with like later on with the Didjits and Big Boys and stuff like that, where it's like that stuff all rips. It's all great, but there was a lot of possibility happening around that time in Seattle specifically. That kind of went from like everything went from like 0 to 60. So is that something that was even on your mind, or were you just trying to do something cool? Like what was happening around that time, from what you can remember?
I never trying to be a rock star or rich or famous or some kind of stuff was never ever. It's never been in my sight line ever. It's something I've never tried to do. I've wanted to be the greatest drummer in the world, and and that was one of the things to strive for, that I would practice to try to do. But I was never ever trying to be. I was never like Dave Grohl. I've heard him say like, he wanted to be Tommy Lee. He wanted to be this famous rock musician,
right?
And I never wanted that. And as a matter of fact, I'm super grateful that never happened to me, because I don't think I would have survived it. I'm not built. I'm not built for that. And I'm very grateful that didn't happen. I never tried to avoid it, but it just never happened in my life. Now, there were many opportunities in my life that was very possible, and I was saved from that happening. And I believe that something intervened in my life so that wouldn't happen, because I wouldn't be here if it did.
Right.
I sort of had I'm sort of built like Kurt about those kinds of things, emotionally and spiritually or whatever, those kind of things. I wouldn't survive it. And I know that, and I believe it. And that's probably one of the same reasons why I've never, ever reached any kind of success. And probably has to do, I'm just not that good too. There's probably some of that too, but for whatever reason, and as close as I ever got to maybe being, a rock star or whatever you want to fucking call that thing, I never got there. And I'm glad that I didn't, because I didn't want it. And people that don't want it and they get that, it's really fucking bad.
Yeah. It usually doesn't end well for them. Right.
And so
pretty rough to their resting state. So
I'm happy being the guy in the back that nobody's really ever heard of. I'm totally cool, because I know that I have some talent. I can do some things that are I have my good points about my playing and stuff like that. And I was never going to be a Phil Collins drummer or some of those some of those monsters out there, but I had my thing that I can do and that I think that I do well or whatever. But for whatever reason, for what keeps somebody from getting to that level, I never got there. And for whatever reason, there's probably a lot of reasons. And so, I never analyzed that. I'm like, that just didn't happen. And I wasn't trying to ever get that. As close as it ever got was ministry. And I didn't, I saw what it did to people. Like, I don't really want that,
Right. Yeah.
The money was nice, and being able to be comfortable there's some of that that's like kind of appealing, but the price that you have to pay to get that, I didn't, I'm fine.
Do you ever keep up with like Paul Barker or any
Nope.
of them?
The guitar player Louis Svitek, I keep in touch with. I'm close with him still.
Nice.
Nobody else really.
Switching gears, I was talking to JD Pincus actually earlier this afternoon about something totally different. As reminded of Daddy Longhead, which he's doing great, by the way. Like I would have mentioned that I was talking to you, but we didn't have that worked out at that point, so it didn't work out. Daddy Longhead, interesting band. Cool. Cool band. Kind of one of those ones that like true heads know, right? Something along those lines. Can you tell me a little bit about Daddy Longhead? What you remember?
I played drums for them with Jeff and a guitar player, and I mean, it's just another band. There was nothing special about that. It was just music, you know. It's just you do stuff that sometimes a bunch of people like, and then sometimes it doesn't. And
it doesn't hit. Yeah.
I sometimes I'm not sure what you're looking for. If you're looking for some kind of interesting, because it's band shit, you know, it's stupid band shit. There wasn't any magic about writing the songs.
Yeah.
I agonized over trying to come up with drum parts for those songs, and the records, I wasn't really happy. The best song that they ever had, I wrote, and in my opinion, so whatever.
Well, it's almost like there's no right answers for stuff. You know what I mean? It's just kind of, it's interesting to kind of look at it from a perspective, you know, historically for folks that aren't the player, to kind of like see what they get out of it, or, you know, like what, and the answer sometimes is not much. You know, and that's fine.
You know, most people that I was in a band with, I don't keep in touch with them. So I don't really, I go on and do other stuff. Like when I was in Daddy Longhead, I knew it was time for me to leave. I wanted to go off and do something else. It was getting weird between Jeff and Jim, the guitar. There was some weird stuff was going on. It was time for me to leave. And I started a band that I was really fucking super happy about, that I loved being in. And I was really glad that I did that, and that band meant more to me than just about anything that I've done. And nobody's ever heard of it.
Is that Euripides Pants?
Yeah, and I love that band, and that band was so much fun, and I love being in that band. And it was definitely not a perfect band, but it was a lot of fun. And then, you know, so there's all kinds of, you know, I've done tons of shit that nobody knows about, and I'm totally I've started several bands that we recorded, and nobody's ever heard the music, and it's some of the stuff that I love the most, that my favorite stuff that I've ever played with other people, and nobody's ever heard it, and they probably never will. So.
But there's also something where sometimes, you know, stuff can find an audience like later on too. Like, you know, one of the nice things about this era is like whatever rules there were for anything, it's out the window. It's like just absolute chaos of, you know, people find whatever, whenever, however they find it. And then there's something kind of wonderful about that potentially, if you choose to look at it that way.
Well, I have this belief about the creation process, and that sometimes you have to give back to like the gods, whatever it is that gives you this creative energy to come up with cool stuff, that sometimes you just have to give it back. And you know, you're not going to prosper from this gift that you were given. Sometimes you just have to give it back to the gods and let them, you know, some people are fortunate enough to be able to take that inspiration and make something out of it immediately. But they're not. I'm sure every single person's like, oh, I had this incredible idea and I never really got to do anything with it. It went back to it goes back into this gift, you know, it's part of the whole deal. And so, you know, I'm cool with that. You know, so many things that people make, especially with song ideas and stuff that you do, you're not going to change your life. It's just, you share it back. You know, it was given to you and you give it back, and you have this moment of where it was awesome. So I'm cool about that with the creative process. I don't have to capitalize on every fucking thing that I've ever done creatively. You know,
sure.
I'm not like that, you know?
Well, and I think that's admirable, and I think that's, you know, I think there's a modern sensibility where it's the you are the product aspect of everything, which is, you know, frankly repulsive to my sensibilities, but, you know, that's the way the world seems to be now. Okay, fine. I mean, I don't have to like it. I just have to accept that that's what it is. But by the same token, you know, it's like it's also one of those things where I think it's natural for people to be curious about stuff as well. You know, it's like, you know, did time in like Didjits and Big Boys, two bands that are like probably top 50 of all time for me. And I remember I do remember you saying that like with the Big Boys stuff that was like, oh, it's almost like I was enjoying it before, but now it's work. I'm I'm in it now, and it's you're going to do the best job you possibly can, but it's like it's going to change your experience of the band as a creative entity in that way, because now you're a participant and you're engaging with it in a different way. And to great effect, I might say. I actually listen to that stuff more than I listen to the early stuff, frankly. But it's also, I get from the perspective of the art and the craft of it all, like it being something that there's like a balance to it. I mean, do you feel like is that anything that like, can you listen to the Big Boys like on record at all? Is that something that you do very often?
Not the stuff that I played on. I like their other stuff better.
Yeah,
I think their third drummer Fred's
good too. Yeah,
I can't necessarily say that. Where's My Towel, Industry Standard, and Fun. Those are the stuff with Fred and Greg are my favorite. That's the stuff that I think is their best. I just had a different style, and for some reason they wanted that in the band. And when I would go back and listen to it, I'm like, you guys were better with the other drummers, and I feel that way. I really do. I feel like you guys were way better. You guys sounded way cooler, way more interesting with the other drummers.
Huh.
So, but.
I think it's all. I think it's a fascinating band. Like I would have loved to have talked to Biscuit when he was around, but I didn't know him, so I would not have. But like I think they're a band that has epochs of time. There's very few bands that kind of have that stretching out of musicality and trying different stuff that. I mean, they're somehow underrated still. You know what I mean? Like somehow that's still the thing. Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, they were innovators. Innovators. So somebody always going to take that and end up doing it better.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. You hear something that's new, like, oh my God, and then you take it and then you make it better. You get better players. You get better thing. You hash out it just gets better and better. And that's Tool did Scratch Acid way better than Scratch Acid did.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's wild, man.
Fucking great. They were like, when I first heard them, I'm like, oh man, you do what we are doing way better.
Yeah.
To me, when I first heard them, I was like, you're totally ripping us off, but you're doing it really well. And so my hat's off to you. You have a singer that can sing. That's great. You have a drummer that's way better than the drum. You have a guitar player that's way better. It was, yeah.
Well, and it fits together in a different way, and part of that's maybe coming out from a different time too. But it's it's all
whatever.
There's something to be said for things like that, right? What is it? The Devo. I think of that Devo discography, Pioneers Who Got Scalped, right? Which I was like, oh, it's a great title because it's like, there's not really a lot of money being first at the gate and stuff necessarily. But
we're never in it for that. I wasn't. So it was never a loss for me.
Right.
So
what are your thoughts on the Didjits, like playing with Rick in the Didjits?
They were great. I love that band. Who wouldn't love them?
I mean, do you hate rock and roll? Like, what's your problem here? Exactly. It's a great band.
They're great. Yeah, fuck. Who wouldn't love that? Yeah, they were great in the beginning, man. I was like, holy shit. It was funny because when I was in Rapeman and being around all those bands, I was like, I want to be like that. I don't want to be like us. I want to do stuff like that. Any band I've ever been in, every band I would see, they were always better than the band that I was in. It didn't matter who the fuck it was. They were always better than the band I was in.
Yeah, so the grass is greener on the other side, right?
Every band Rapeman played with, I'm like, God damn, why can't we be like that? Shit, they're great,
Well, whatever, not to turn around to be on me, but when we played with Suckling, Brett's all, hey, some of your stuff, man, kind of reminds me of Rick from the Didjits. I'm like, fuck, Thank you. I mean, Jesus Christ, are you fucking kidding me? Yeah. There's worse things to be compared to than one of the greatest rock bands of all time, you know? All right. I like that EP, though. The Little Miscarriage EP, I think it's good. I mean, that's something that, I mean, you got to understand. Like, I was sitting there, you know, having already worn out my tape of Hey Judester tape cassette years later and be like, oh, man, they got other records. I better check these out, too. But, I mean, did you feel like that was a good... I think that's the only one that doesn't have Brad on it, if I remember correctly. I think that's the only recording. I should know this. Sorry, but
I mean, I only listened to their first couple of records, and they kind of started going off into a little bit different direction. I don't think their songs were as good as, so, you know, bands first, you know, their debut, their sophomore effort, whatever, those are always their best stuff in most cases. So, but
there are cases that I think that's more true than not, but there are cases that kind of exceptions that prove the rule.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
Speak, right?
Yeah. That's not the rule. But so, I think I just learned those songs when I was there. Those were the songs that he had, and I just played on them. So
yeah, they're just like kick-ass rock and roll songs, and there's not like a ton to think about, right? I mean, it's. Tell me how did you get? Because again, last time we talked, which is so long ago, how did you get into doing acting? Was that something that you had always kind of thought about in the past, or was that something that kind of came to you, or what was the process for that?
I think I'd lost my mind.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I got hit in the head, and then I had this idea that I was going to do that. So, yeah.
And do you feel like that's like, do you feel like it's something that like was not like the good use of your time or something? Do you just feel like it wasn't, didn't do what it was supposed to do?
Well, my mom was a theater director when I was growing up, and so I grew up around the theater, community theater.
Yeah,
and was in, and it acted like not school acting, but real acting and stuff. And so there was a part of me that was cool, and I love movies. And I've always been a big movie fan, and anyway, and I don't know why. To be perfectly honest, I don't know what in the fuck got into my head that would think that would be a fucking good idea to try. I don't know what it was. I really don't. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you where it started.
Okay.
After my son was born, he was a little baby, and we would just be around the house all day, and I had a video camera, and I would just film us doing this stupid shit of just playing. Like I set him up in his little high chair, and I interviewed him. He was like a big sports celebrity.
Right.
He couldn't talk or anything, and I'm just asking him questions, and I filmed this.
Yeah.
I filmed it, and he's just like, ga, 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 ga. And I'm like, oh, really? That's very interesting. And then what happened when you score so it was just this stupid, and it started with that of me and I thought, you know what? Maybe I could, because we were in Hollywood. We lived in LA, and I had some other friends that were doing it too. I'm like, yeah, maybe I could try this. So it was just some stupid fucking idea that came off of me having fun with my infant son.
And especially, when you're living in LA, that's the industry, right? That's the industry of that area. So
it's not why I moved. I moved out there to do drumming, is what it was. And but then my son was born, and I'm like, well, everything's off the fucking table now. I don't have, my responsibility is to be a dad. And that's what I wanted to do. It's like, hey, I want to be a father. I want to experience. I want to have this experience with a child and be a dad and do that. Yeah, and raise a kid. So
be present. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah. So nothing else mattered after that.
Sure. And I remember you talked about last time I think it was a Phantom Planet, right? Was that the fellows that like you were like, doing like that? I'm sorry, I don't want to bring up like bad stuff, but like it was like I was like, oh, that sounds like a drag, dude. It sounds like it was a real bummer. But yeah, can you? Would you mind retelling for the people that apparently won't listen to the archives about that Phantom Planet story?
Really?
They won't.
Anybody even care about that?
I mean,
Jason Schwartzman got they were going to go on tour. They'd just gotten signed to Geffen. His Jason's mom, who was Talia Shire.
Right. He's a Coppola.
Got him a deal with Geffen. Got him a record deal with Geffen. They got this guy to manage them, who was the lighting guy for Ministry. He was managing them out in L.A. and Jason had Hodgkin's disease. And he had to go in for treatment.
Oh,
and he was also filming Rushmore. So he was doing filming Rushmore and going in for his lymphoma, his Hodgkin's disease chemo, and wasn't able to go on this tour. So Dan called me, the manager who was the lighting guy for Ministry, and asked me if I would go and fill in. And this was at the absolute lowest point of my life. I was addicted to drugs. It was fucked up. It was really bad. And I didn't tell Dan. Anyway, so I went out there to go and play with them. And it just was, I wish I would have had the guts to tell him that it's not what I wanted to do, but the money, he just paid me way too much to do that. And it was really, really bad, really painful. Because these guys, they were right out of high school, and God bless them, they were young kids, and and they just got signed to Geffen, and they fucking were acting like this fucking total little punk ass spoiled kids, and it just sucked being around them. And there was a couple of them that were nice that I liked. Actually, Jason was the one that I liked the most, but he was, I was replacing him. I was filling in.
He was the guy you're filling in for.
He was the one that I liked. I got along with him the best. Anyway, that was and I was out there for 3 or 4 months, and we never did actually do a tour. I was out, and they paid me way too much money.
So you're prepped, you're locked and loaded.
That never even happened. And it's like, I think we played in a Best Buy one time, we fucking played in a Best Buy.
Wow.
This band who was just signed to Geffen, who was like going to be the next big
right.
thing. We played like in between the fucking refrigerators and the washer dryer combos, and I was like, this is just fucked. I couldn't get enough drugs in me to deal with that situation, man. I mean, it was so. I'm serious. It was really bad.
Yeah,
it was the absolute lowest point of my life.
I mean, I shouldn't laugh because it's horrific.
It's super fucking comical. Believe me.
It's just that's the industry nightmares kind of story, right? And that's something also like those kids are not coming up from punk rock. They're not coming up from doing DIY or anything along those lines. And they're it's a very.
I think one of them, the bass player, went off, and he's playing with Maroon 5 now, and.
Cool.
So a couple of them went on. Well, Jason obviously went off and had a career. The bass player went off. I don't think anybody else did anything. And I think they keep trying to go back in their one-hit wonder thing.
Kind of make it happen, yeah.
playing that song. They tour behind that, sort of like a million other bands.
I mean, to a certain degree, it seems like there's a circuit for that people, that's enough for some people, but not for me. But I mean,
Write a hit song, and it will be.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's a good idea. I should work it out.
Get to work on that. Get to work on that hit song, man.
I never thought about that. I should write a hit song. Yeah,
sure. There's a formula out there.
There really is, man. It's notable. It's notable. So what do you? So you mentioned you're coming back from practice before we talked tonight. So you're playing, but like what kind of playing are you doing? Is it something where you're playing just for yourself? Are you kind of like looking to like do more of a thing? I mean, I know we talked about your Rip It These Pants even way back when, and how like, you know, it's super cool, but it's just not what people think of maybe when they think of the players' names, and so it's not something that folks like check out necessarily. But like, what's driving you? Like, do you have an idea for like doing a thing, or you just kind of feel like you're just playing for the fuck of it? Like, what's happening right now?
Well, I've always written music. I've always written. So and the thing that I was doing with Gary and the bass player, after the bass player left, Gary and I started writing together, and he was so busy, I was doing 90% of the writing. And he would come in with a riff, and we would record it, and then I would go in it and write all the other parts and stuff like that. So I have a goal. So I have a bunch of stuff that I had been working on and writing, and you know, whatever, you know, I'll record several parts and then play the drums and record the drums to it and then work on it. So yeah, I'm on, you know, I only got into this a couple of years ago. A good friend of mine and David Yow's, their drummer was injured, and they were going to go and do some shows, and he asked me if I would come and because I hadn't picked up the drumsticks since my son was, you know, I did that Scratch Acid reunion tour, and that was it. I hadn't picked up the drums, and I was focusing everything on acting. Anyway, so I got into, long story short, drumming. I started practicing a couple of years ago. And then Jay Mascis asked me to play and do that. And I've really been enjoying it. It's been really fun. I've been able to kind of approach the drums with a different, I wanted to learn a bunch of other things. I really got into double bass playing. I was really fascinated with the whole kind of balance and ballet of doing double bass, and not like metal kind of double bass. Just yeah. Although there's an element. Anyway, I was learning all of this new stuff and coming up, and I really was trying to approach the drums from really different. And I have been, and it's been really fun. And I'm writing just tons of other music and stuff. And I thought it was going to work out with Gary, but he just didn't have enough time. And so, yeah, it's been fun because acting has just completely vanished in Texas. It's just completely gone. And I really wanted to do it. It was something that I worked, like when I work on stuff, I really fucking work at it. I got to be a fairly, you know, whatever level of drummer that I was at, I got that. You know, I'm always getting better because I'm always trying to work at it. I never thought of myself as being very good. So I'm always practicing and trying to get better. And I'd like to think that my trajectory, that I'm still getting better. Anyway, so, you know, acting, I worked really hard. It's so hard, and it just went away. Like the whole industry in the state and the nation too, it just went away, and it really got really bad here. So there's nothing to do. And I'm aging out. I'm getting older, blah, blah, blah. Right. So this has been a blessing for me to get back into this. Music kind of just came back into my life. I've been able to focus all my time and energy on doing that. And it's been fun. I'm loving it. You know, it's like I'm getting to be super creative. It's reminding me how fucking old I'm getting, because after I go and fucking practice and work on shit for 2 hours, every fucking joint in my body is aching.
Right.
So, you know, I'm like, holy shit, man, this is fucking, oh my God. Yeah. And, you know, I've lost a step or two, but it's, you know, I can do things now that I used to not be able to do. And it's really cool. And so, you know, I might not be as fast, and I can't hit as hard as I used to, which just didn't mean anything, but I can still hit hard enough, and it's been fun. You know, it's like, I got the little drum set that Steve Albini gave me. I still have it. It's in the fucking corner over here.
Oh, that rules. I love that.
It's still that little drum set over there.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
He gave it to me a long time ago. I still have it. That's one of my main things that I play on. So anyway, when I have an idea, I'll run over there and
That's great. I mean, that's lovely. Yeah. Well, and it's also like everything you said is true. You know, it's like one of those things where if you're doing something for lack of a better term, for like love of the game, than the act of doing it and kind of, learning more and developing things and so on and so on. Like that can be the reward in and of itself.
It's always been the reward. It's never been, if it was about money or any of that shit, I would have quit about 30 years ago. It's one of those things you hear those people say, if I don't do it, I'm going to go crazy.
Yeah.
It's that.
Look,
I mean, I've done this since I was a little, I started playing when I was a little boy.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the amount of work that it took to be good at it, but I've always done it and always loved it. So it's always been, that's never going to go away.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, that's part of it being a lifer, right? And being like someone that's, you appreciate doing this thing and the craft of doing it, and it can be its own reward in a lot of ways. But then like when you come together for something better, it's like together with other musicians, you can make something real special. Ideally, hopefully, It was weird to take all of that time off. Yeah.
But I put all of that energy from drumming into another art form.
Yeah.
That I was just as fascinated or interested in. So it was weird not ever thinking about playing again.
Right, but you were taking that energy towards something else. Right, you're taking that same energy and
all of that creative energy. It was all went into something else. So I never even thought about drumming.
Right.
I just put that same desire and that drive into something else, and the same amount of effort in everything, into learning and growing in that. So, that kind of shift was weird.
Well, there's a precedent for it. Look like Chris Christopherson or something, right? I mean, that dude he's in all kinds of movies and stuff, and it worked out well for him. And especially for like character actor stuff, you always need someone that like looks distinctive or interesting, or even if it's just like play like the heavy or like the weird uncle or something along those lines.
It's the acting thing. It's such a visual medium, and so there's so many other elements that go along with it. And the bad part about it is that you can't do that by yourself. There's not a bit of that you can do. It has to be collaborative. It doesn't have to be that way with music. You can sit around and do all that shit by yourself.
Yeah that's right. Especially these days.
I have control over it. In acting, you have zero fucking control over any element of it at all, and it's brutal. Especially when you work so hard, you work really hard and you expect something out of it. And when you work really hard at it and you think like, oh yeah, things should be coming my way, and then they don't, you're like, well, what the fuck is wrong? But it's not, it's nothing. It's just out of your control.
You're like one tiny cog of this gigantic machine that's just grinding forward that has nothing
and
to
there's
do
a
with
thousand
anything.
other people that are in line who want the same fucking thing that you do and are probably better at it or whatever the deal is, or look different or more. And there's so many visual aspects to it. So it's been very refreshing to come back. And and I thought the music business sucked, but the fucking film business
It's somehow
makes
worse.
the music business look like it was run by a bunch of nuns. I'm serious. This film business is the most disrespectful, dishonest, shittiest fucking. You're around the worst fucking people ever, who think they've got it all figured out and have no. It's horrible. It's horrible. But if you can separate that from just the craft is amazing.
Well, and that's what keeps you going, right? That's what keeps you moving, that's what keeps you engaged.
You can say the same thing about the music business. The only reason that you do that is because you enjoy being with those people and you love making that and doing that music. The other
when it hits,
goes on,
when it hits, when you hit those magic moments where stuff transcends, there's nothing like it.
The hair on the back of your neck stands up, and you're just like, oh man, that just felt so fucking cool. Can we recreate that?
Yeah.
Now I have to do it now. Can we do that over and over and over? It's nothing. Collaborative art is amazing.
You can spend an entire lifetime chasing it, but it goes beyond special and turns into something transcendental, and that's still, they haven't been able to take that away yet. so we got that going for us, but the rest of it's
it's good, man. It's
not ideal. Last thing, Ray, you've been so great to talk to me with almost no warning after me going back and forth and having crazy schedule on this. I've been wanting to talk to you again for so long, and it's so rad to be able to talk to so many folks like yourself that have such great lived experiences and all these things that even if you don't necessarily think all of them are interesting, it's fascinating for the listeners of the show and myself included, right? And I thank you so much for your time with that. I did want to bring up. Do you remember what do you remember about the Nirvana thing? And the reason why I bring it up is I know that there was a little bit of a kerfuffle unknown to me about something that was said last time, of which I barely remember. But Daniel House, Skinyard, there was a whole thing with that. Do you remember anything about this? Is this anything that you even want to comment on?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, I mean, from what I understand, what we talked last time is that at some point when he went up, and I think before, I want to say the timeline is before they got Grohl in Nirvana, your name was coming up in the conversation naturally because of Scratch Acid, Rapeman. Those guys were fans of that of those bands. That maybe they were looking to have you come play, and that didn't happen. Do you remember anything about this? If the answer is no, that's fine. But
about going and playing, I never played with Nirvana.
Well, that's what that yeah, and that's. But do you remember the whole Daniel House Skinyard thing? Because apparently, I'm trying to remember the details of it, but it's been way too long, and I don't have any even in front of me. So if the answer is no, it's okay.
Yeah, he asked me to come up, and I remember I went to Seattle and I met him, and to be perfect, I didn't really like the band.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and I met him, and his personality just was really kind of off-putting, and I didn't feel comfortable around him. I remember that. And I remember he got upset because I didn't want to play with him.
Hmm.
And I remember him being, that's just my perspective of it. And that's really all I remember from it. And then I had a friend, a friend call me and tell me that, maybe this is what anyway, they got back to me that there was a rumor that I was a junkie, and that Daniel had told this person that.
I see. Okay.
Now, I don't know if that actually happened. That's just what the person had told me, that's. So he was obviously, if that is actually the case, he was obviously upset.
Mm-hmm.
Because I knew that he was upset because I didn't want to play with him. I mean, it was, I could see it, anyway. And again, that was my perspective, but if that's what you're talking about, so.
I'm doing the thing. Normally I come prepared with all the facts and everything ready, but that's one just off the dome because I remembered it.
The reason that I went, I went up there from playing with Helios, because after I left Helios, and like I said, the timeline of all of this is really fucked up from leaving Rapeman, from leaving Chicago, and then going back to Austin, and then going out to San Francisco, and then going to Seattle, and then back, and it's all this kind of weird thing because a friend said, "Hey, Nirvana's looking for a drummer." Because the person that told me this is a very good friend and was very good friends with Nirvana, and said they're looking for a drummer. What's his name? He's leaving. He's getting out of the band. They're looking for somebody, and your name has come up. And I know they love Scratch Acid. Blah blah blah. Is that something you would want? And I'd never heard of Nirvana. I didn't know anything about them.
Yeah,
I'm like, no,
different scene, different part of the country.
Not really.
Sure.
I don't. I don't know. Not whatever. And then I don't know why I went up to Seattle. I don't know why I don't know if that happened right after I left Helios Creed. It's kind of weird why I went up there and met with. Because my friends were up in Seattle. Maybe I'd gone up there and that's when I met Daniel. I don't remember, but
whatever.
Well, he did that. Yeah, the record. So you did that Boxing the Clown record, which, like I said, I listened back to last week. Pretty good. Like it held up, right? But like he was the one before that. Like he wrote a good amount of the songs on that, and like he was involved in
Helios.
Yeah, and for the Helios, Last Laugh, which is the one before that. But by the way, I tried to go over some of the stuff with the Helios. He was not. It was. It's a very circular conversation, but
do you talk to him?
I did, yeah. I mean, I love that dude, but like he's
how long ago was that?
God, 3 years ago, maybe something like that,
wow.
along those lines. But I mean,
Is
I
he
think
still alive?
He is. He is. Yes, he is.
Good.
But he's. I mean, that fellow's on his own trip, his own.
He always was.
Right. Exactly. I would love to have him on again because I mean that's one of the. Ray, here's what I'll say. At the end of that episode, I felt high. Right? I mean, that's like all I can say about it. You know, for better or for worse, I was like, wow, man, like that was a wild ride. It was crazy. But deep love for Helios Creed, for his playing, for all the music. Yeah, but
I was a big Chrome fan. Sure.
Oh my God! Like when I heard Chrome, I was like, oh my God! It's like the sound of like inside my head. This is like amazing. Like what is happening here? This is beautiful.
Yeah, how old are you?
I'm turning 48 in like a week and a half.
You're a fucking baby. Holy shit!
Well, thank you. I don't feel it.
When Chrome, when those records just came out,
yeah.
Shit. When I had heard them, they were only 4 or 5 years old, I think, at that point. Maybe.
Yeah.
Shit, they
like
recorded
Aliens,
those in like 75 or something like that.
Alien soundtracks and
76.
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
shit, yeah. We heard them I heard them in 80, 81. So yeah,
so that's
I was like,
wild,
holy
man.
fucking shit, man.
You
talk about mind melting from in 81. Like, holy, what the fuck?
That still sounds like it was beamed in from Neptune. You know, it's like what is this? Like in a good way, right? In that same way, I remember like first time I heard Suicide too. In the same way, like what the hell am I listening to? Like what is this?
That was good. You know, I miss that about music. I rarely hear. And I try to listen to as much new music. I listen to. There's always music playing in my house, and so
sure.
But I never had those kind of experiences from back in like the '80s when everybody was experimenting. It's hard that you hear anything that's new and fresh like that these days. Every once in a while, something might jump out, but back then it was just like. Everybody was experimenting with all of this shit and so many things like I've never,
Well, and it's
Cashmere was as crazy as it got back in the day.
Right.
I was like, whoa, fuck.
Well, and it's also that type of kind of bold experimentalism isn't necessarily rewarded because what now it's like, oh, the best thing you do is sound like something that people already know. Which is like, okay,
I know
that's like the opposite of what I like. Like, what are we doing here? Like, I like, when you have these freaks.
You're not going to be
weirdos.
weirder than Throbbing Gristle or the Buttholes or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, like I hate that jaded thing. Like, I'm sorry, man. I've heard this already. I heard this back in '82. I'm sorry. You don't know it, but. It already happened.
Did you listen? Have you heard Tropical Fuck Storm? Do you know that band? Australian band. They're like probably the closest thing I can think of. It's like, all right, that's kind of.
Oh, I'm not saying there's stuff out there that that isn't. Somebody's doing something that's like I need to hear that because I haven't. And I'm always like, if you got something tip that you want me to listen to that you think I would like, I listen to it.
Yeah.
I will check.
I'll throw you away. I think they're like one of the bands that's like, I see where they're coming from with all this, but like how it all fits together is like pretty unique, and that's hard to come by these days. Like where it's like, wow, this is actually different, and I feel like in a world of. And you got to understand, I'm coming from years like working at a record store, like doing zines when that was a thing, doing this show, whatever, playing a million shows, so on and so on. Which I feel like I can be like, I can give you a log line in almost any band. All right, it's this, like, this part, this here. And every once in a while, just run into a band where I'm like,
And where are
right.
you hearing? What platform are you hearing this music on?
oh man, I mean, it's usually at this point, it's usually like recommendations from friends, right? Like when I listen to on the streaming services, I'm just like listening to records from stuff I already know usually. So it's usually like, oh, you have to check out so and so. All right.
So when these bands that you like, you never heard of, you would have never. Are you getting vinyl from them or
I'll usually
Spotify or what? How are you?
Yeah. I'll usually I switched over to Apple Music earlier this year just because I was just getting tired of hearing about what all Spotify was doing with their billions.
So you're listening to all this stuff on streaming.
Yeah, and then if I really dig it, I'll usually buy it. I do this, it's a thing I do in this show that I'll like every year. Hey, here's my like top records of the year that I liked. They sound like this. I'll play a song from each one. Some people have told me that they get something out of it, great.
I got it playing constantly, and I've found so much stuff that a lot of the things that I'm hearing are people manipulating other recorded stuff.
Sure, yeah, where it's almost like a contextualization or something. Yeah.
And that's been so like, well, I don't know if that's actually making new music, but it's.
Sound boring.
It caught my attention for a few minutes, and then I listened to it more and go, oh, that's just a loop of something else that you've already been done, and you just fucked with it and manipulated and stuff like that. But, bringing up, Corey won't put Rapeman on Spotify. He won't put it on streaming. And I'm really bummed. And I think it should kind of had this falling out about that. And I was just like, you know what? He goes, well, Steve wouldn't want it on there, and his wife doesn't want it on there, and David Sims doesn't want it on there. And I'm like, well, I said, I do.
Yeah, put it
you
different.
You Corey does, and I do. Why doesn't our opinion matter?
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to get into that, but I don't
call
think
it Bud.
It's
Whatever. Just get something to get. Well, and it's a shame because like I heard a band cover one of those songs, one of the that one. I can't remember the name right now, but like I was like, oh shit, are they playing a Rapeman song? I was like, oh, this is pretty good. And then I was like, I haven't listened to that band in forever, and I like went back and listened to the CD because I still got it right, and I was like, oh yeah, this goes. This is like a good freaking record, man.
Yeah, it'll never happen. It's all right. Whatever. It wasn't meant to be.
That's just a shame. And I get it. Yeah. I feel like there's a solution that can
the frogs are on there. The frogs. That's like the most fucking like homophobic, freaking racist fucking shit. That's like that. If that's on there, why can't what the fuck?
Like every like 12-year-old boy's favorite band. Exactly. It's just like, oh my god, these songs are holy crap. I think that there should be a modus operandi for getting that music out to the streaming world. Which if you're not on the streamers, you don't exist. You're writing a manifesto in the woods at this point, and that's like, do I agree with that? No. But that's the way it is.
I don't think Corey's going to budge on that. Him and Steve, they were super tight, and he feels like it's going to disrespect Steve if he does it. And I have to be okay with that. As much as I disagree with it, but I
mean, it's not like there aren't ways to listen to it. It's just not easily available. It's not like you're going to be like, oh, you like the Jesus Lizard? Perhaps you would like,
And in the big picture, it's not going to matter if nobody ever hears that. Nobody's going to give a shit. It's not like nobody's going to miss out because they didn't hear that, So I have to put this in perspective, Ray.
I guess I'll just be mad for you. I guess I don't know. I feel like it's. I mean.
Hey, write Touch and Go and tell them you want that to be released on streaming. That's the only way it's going to happen.
All right. Yeah, there you go. So there you go, everybody. Say what? We'll put the listeners to it, right? Because there's a lot of people who listen to this show, even way more than when you were on last time. So just, write your congressman, Corey Rusk, and let him know that you want to hear it. Yeah. Ray, dude, it's been great having you on. I'm sorry it took me like 9 months to actually.
Yeah, I'm sorry I missed you in Austin. I don't. I'm really out of the pocket. I rarely do social media kind of stuff. So, but
I didn't even think to tell you about it. And it's it's whatever, dude. Like we'll be back. It's fine. And It's great to. This has got to be the longest between episodes. I think. I mean, it's got to be a new record because you were on so early. I'm not. I remember it being a good conversation, but I definitely did not have it figured out yet. But that's part of the process of this show, and one of the things I like about it is that you kind of find the meaning in the rhyme like along the way, and it's good to have you back and have. And revisit some of this stuff and talk about some. I mean, again, I'm just stoked to have Scratch Acid in the conversation. Period, because that was a big band for me when I was coming up, getting into weird music. Right, I was like, wow, these guys are nuts. What's happening with this band? This is great.
And what was it about that? What was it about that was so weird? That it was so like, wow, this is wow.
I mean, for me,
that is.
I was coming from. So I grew up in a musical household. Like I had like Black Sabbath and Neil Young and Led Zeppelin and stuff played around the house. I knew from music, but the first band I heard that was kind of like from this is different was Nirvana. So everything from Nirvana that beget Butthole Surfers, Sonic Youth, Melvins, so on and so on, and Scratch Ass is one of those bands. And
you're young. That's right.
Well, and I got to say, so the first thing that hooked me was Brett's guitar stuff because I was like just learning to play guitar. I was like, what's that dude up to? This is crazy. But another thing that was very distinctive was your drumming. And I was like, wow, I don't think it's like almost like jazzy or something, like without having any type of real musical knowledge to draw back on to understand it. And so it was imprinted on me pretty early on. And it's something enough that in my screen printing class, the one shirt that I made was a Scratch Acid shirt without realizing that you could just buy one from Touch and Go, by the way. I don't fucking know how to do that. Like, what, Christ, I'm a fucking idiot kid in nowhere, California. I still have it. I almost brought it because I thought it was a pretty good chance I might see Brett. I almost brought it down and I was going to wear it at the Austin show, but I forgot. So anyway, cool. That's a cool story about a shirt I didn't wear on a tour you didn't see. But anyway,
great story, Conan.
One for the ages. Exactly.
Thanks for sharing. Riveting.
It's what folks tune in for. Definitely, I'm not ever going to hear about that in any way. Ray, man, it's been great having you on. I deeply appreciate what you do, what you have done, what you consider to do, and I hope that let's not make it 11 years or whatever.
Yeah, I'll be
between shows.
Yeah, you'll be at my gravesite doing that.
Damn, dude, that's harsh.
So Ray, from this, tell us. So, what was drumming like in Scratches?
Yeah, exactly. Are the drums in the room with us now? Anyway, but last thing, so only canned question I ever ask. I sure wasn't doing this last time you were on, so you can choose to interpret this however you like. But why do you do what you do?
Because I can't not do it.
Fair enough. Ray Washam, appreciate you, brother.
Hey, man, thanks.
Take care. Have a lovely evening.
All right, you too, buddy. Bye-bye.
Bye. There he goes. Ray Washam. What a cool guy, man. That was I've been wanting to do that for quite a while. And we got it done. We got there. We got there eventually. And that's really what counts, is that it's not first to the post. It's you do it. But I'd like to thank Ray for his time. Let's hear some Scratch Acid right here, right now. If you haven't, we'll hear some Scratch Acid, and then I'm gonna play some from the R Band. So if you see this, just with the word R coming out soon, you'll know that there's been some action happening from this show. The Zoner's Lament. Well, all right. That's a double dose of Mr. Ray Washam there. Owner's Lament by Scratch Acid, and then Steak and Black Onions by the band we shall not name, which is great, by the way. I'd like to thank Ray for coming on the show again. Crazy, first of all, how out of practice I am. But yeah, 416 episodes. That's a pretty, that's a new record, for sure. Well, let's just not even, I won't even look it up. That's a new record. Great to have him back. I love that guy. I think he's really interesting, and appreciate him giving me that time. The name of the show is Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. Thank you so very much for listening to it. You can find the shows generally Thursdays, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific, streaming live, YouTube and Twitch. Podcasts later everywhere. ProtonicReversal.com for the archives. Always free, no ads, no sponsors. No kidding. But yeah, if you like the show and want to get episodes sooner, $1 a month at patreon.com/Protonic Reversal achieves that goal, helps keep the lights on this joint, and it's deeply appreciated. So you're more than welcome to do that if that's a thing that you feel so inclined. If not, liking, subscribing to your platform of choice, sharing around on the internet, all that helps people discover the show. It's a darn nice thing to do. So I'm shifting back into Protonic mode. I've been Secret Friends mode for most of the year. Although I will say there is a December 5th, LA, Mike Watt, Conan Neutron Secret Friends, Redwood Bar, and December 6th in Dallas. So 2 more live dates for this year. Very busy year. A lot of cool stuff coming up. Coming up next, Steve McDonald, Red Cross, and Melvins and Dale Crover Band, and then Jeff Pincus come back as well from Metal Servers and Melvins and his own solo stuff. Stay tuned. Cool stuff coming. As always, thank you, everybody, for listening. Stay safe.
Route 128, dark and lonely.
Check you later.
I got my radio on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Welcome to my top 10. I'd like to thank our sponsor. But we haven't got a sponsor. Not if you were the last man on Earth. She was prepared to prove it. This one goes out to a special girl. But there is no special girl. It's the end of radio. The last announcer plays the last record. The last what? Leaves the transmitter. Circles the globe in search of a listener. Is it really broadcasting if there's no one there to receive? It's the end of radio. As we come to the close of our broadcast day, got my radio